Hey guys, Zach Keaton here. Today I'm going to be talking about the Waldgefluster album, Ruinen, or however the fuck you say that, because I have no clue, I am not German. And the reason I'm going to be talking about this album, which is a few years old now, or a year or two old now, is Waldgefluster is releasing a new album on April 5th. It's an album I'm very excited for. It's an album I've been looking forward to ever since the single Rotgoldin Novemberwalder got released a couple of months ago. And I actually said that that was my favorite black metal track of 2018, that single released in advance of this new album. So I'm very excited for the new album, and because I'm so excited for the new album, we're going to be talking about Ruinen, which is the band's previous album. Overall, let's just start with a little rundown on Waldgefluster. Waldgefluster is a German atmospheric black metal band, known for mixing some folk elements, kind of known for being maybe a member of that new, I'm almost going to call them fourth wave of atmospheric black metal bands, with Panopticon and Waldgefluster and Celeste. Well, I guess Celeste is third wave. You know what, this is rambling. Anyways, so Ruinen really showcases Waldgefluster's, atmospheric sound, but I think what really sets it apart from some other atmospheric albums is it's not only focusing on the atmospheric sounds. It focuses on a lot of sounds that you could expect to hear in various other black metal genres. There are instances on the tracks that kind of sound like they'd be more from a traditional second wave band. More aggressive, faster vocals, kind of your more traditional wall of sound type of thing going on with the guitars and the double bass drum. But then they mix that with, your atmospheric sounds, which I've talked about. And then they also mix that with kind of some post-black metal sounds, which are interesting. And what I think really sets this album apart is Waldgefluster's ability to intertwine those three sounds, as well as other sounds that you get from folk music. And what they do is they'll take an instrument, say, from, a post-black metal or a folk metal band, or something that you'd hear in those genres, and then they'll put that in with something that you'd hear in maybe more of a second wave thing, and they'll mix vocals. They'll do vocals that sound maybe more off like a post or an atmospheric black metal track, and put them behind, a faster section of song, or vice versa. They'll do really aggressive vocals behind a slower section of song. And it's kind of this intertwining of different elements of music that for me sets Waldgefluster and sets this album apart. This album does not fit neatly into any category of metal or music, because as I said, there are elements, like there are post-black metal elements that, for me, I don't even consider post-black metal to be black metal. So it has elements outside of metal. There's a track that starts with a short little a guitar and I want to say it's a fiddle harmonic, and something that sounds like maybe you'd hear off Panopticon. And that kind of goes into my, maybe my gripes with the album. Is Waldgefluster, they are really good at mixing together interesting sounds and intertwining them in a very advanced way, in a way that I'd say hasn't really been done so much before. But those sounds that they are mixing together, none of them, I would say, or very few of them, are unique to Waldgefluster. Waldgefluster, to me, it seems like they are a band who, has taken a lot of inspiration from various other bands. There's classic second wave bands that they're taking inspiration from. Atmospheric bands, like you notice a lot of Agalok in this album. They have a lot of those kind of, I'm not a guitar player, so I don't know how to describe these, but they have a lot of those Agalok sounding slower riffs. Slower, but in a higher keyed riff, with kind of an interesting tuning. I don't really know what you'd call the tuning on it. And what they'll do is they'll kind of harmonize those slower, more ethereal riffs with the kind of wall of sound type of things, and they'll go in and out between those elements. And that's something that's not original to Waldgefluster. And they have the folk elements, which are not original to Waldgefluster. There are several elements, I'd say most of the elements are not original to Waldgefluster. They're taken from other bands. But is that necessarily a bad thing? You know, they took elements from other bands, but they've completely changed how they are played, you know, by mixing them together with multiple different genres, with just putting them together in a very interestingly choreographed, or not choreographed, was that dancing? Very well written, but very interestingly written song structure. And so that's my main gripe with Waldgefluster-Ruinen, is the lack of originality. But then also, I'd say it's also a very original album, because they take, you know, these elements that we've heard before, and they put them in places we've never heard them. And so I can't say that I necessarily think too negatively on the band for recycling elements of other music. You know, because that's something that's been done across black metal for, you know, since its inception pretty much, is recycling other music. And Waldgefluster did it in a way that was very fresh, and is very appealing to listen to. And now, about listening to this album. This is an album that I think if you listen to passively, it's, I'm not going to say brilliance, but, you know, it's kind of the good quality of this album can pass you by if you listen to it passively. The first time I listened to this album, I did listen to it in a more passive setting, and I thought it was kind of boring. I thought, you know, this is maybe one of those kind of self-masturbatory albums where it's just, you know, an atmospheric black metal band just showing, oh, look how clever we are. We can write this special music that nobody else is making, and you know, I thought, that's kind of lame. I don't really like that. But then I listened to it more engaged. I was more engaged in the music, took notes on the music, and I really started to uncover what this album was about, or what this album, you know, how it was supposed to sound. And I think I was seeing it more from the perspective of the people who made the music. And when I started really going in depth with listening to the album, I really started to uncover its brilliance. I just said brilliance. I said I wasn't going to say brilliance, but I uncovered its brilliance. It's a great album. So I think to really appreciate this album, you need to go into it more in depth, and you need to really pay attention. Because it's not, you know, it's not just another metal album. It's kind of a special album. Like I said, it really mixes together elements of music that I'd say have never been heard together in the same context. So overall, I'm gonna say Waldgefluster's Ruinen album. I'm gonna rate it out of 10 here. This is my first review, and so I don't know if rating an album out of 10 will stick, if that'll be something I'll stay with. But that's just kind of a generic rating scale, so I think for my first review, we're gonna use that. So I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. Very good album. Like I said, you know, if it had had slightly more originality in what it's made out of, in its pieces, then I would have no problem giving this a 10 out of 10. It's a great album. So thanks for watching. I think, you know, I'm going to be doing a review of Waldgefluster's new album, which I can't remember the title of because it's some very long series of German words. Now that comes out on April 5th. I think I already mentioned that. But it might take me a few days after to get a review out on it, because it's an album I've been looking forward to for so long, and I'd really like to appreciate it. But until then, I think actually today, I'd like to film a review of Ultimus's new album, which is kind of an interesting supergroup. So you can look forward to that. But until next time, this has been Zach Keaton. And I don't know, just be yourself. Don't worry about staying cult or staying metal. Just you do you. See you later, my friends.